Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Poultry Housing Part 2. So in this session we are going to cover systems of the poultry housing. So there are different types of poultry housing systems, so that we are going to cover in this topic, and cage system and its type. So there are different cage system, okay, so that also we are going to cover in this particular session. So the first is systems of the poultry housing. So broadly, poultry housing systems are classified into three systems. So generally, we are having three different types of poultry housing. Okay, so the free range or the extensive system, semi-intensive system, and intensive system. So there are three different types of poultry housing. Free range system. This system is adopted only when adequate land is available to ensure desired stocking density by avoiding overcrowding. So if we are having adequate land, then only we should go for this particular free range system. Okay, and we should have a proper stocking also of the birds, so then only we should go for this particular type of system. If we can rear about 250 adult birds per hectare, so this is one of the estimate of the birds that we are going to rear. A range provides shelter, greens, feed, water, and shade. So this particular type of system that provide shelter to the birds, greens to the birds, proper feed, water, and even the shade. Foraging is the major source of feeding for the birds. So in this type of free range system, foraging is the major feeding source of the birds. Shelter is usually provided by the temporary roofing supported by the ordinary pole. So there is a temporary roofing facility in this particular type of system. The fields are generally used to rotational basis after harvesting of crops by moving birds from one field to another depending on the cropping program. So the primary thing is that we are having cropping also. So according to the cropping system or the cropping program, we are changing the field. Suppose birds are kept in one season at this particular site in the farm, and there is a cropping of any type of crop here. So in the next season, birds can be shifted to this particular site and cropping can be done at this particular site. Okay, so the fields are generally used on rotational basis. All categories of birds can be reared in this system. So any type of birds, all the categories of birds can be reared in this bird. There is no categorization of the bird that this particular type of birds can only be reared in this particular system. Any type of bird can be reared. So this system is most preferred for organic egg production. So if we are favoring the organic egg production, then we can go for this free range system. What are the advantage of this system? Less capital investment. We do not require any large capital. Cost of housing is leased. So there is not a construction based house. So there is a leased for the housing. Cost of housing is leased. Feed requirements are less since the birds can consume fairly good amount of feed from the grassland. So foraging type of feeding is there. So there is no requirement of feed to the birds. Fertility of soil can be maintained. This is the one of the other advantage of this free range system. But there's are some disadvantages also. The scientific management practices cannot be adopted. Eggs are lost when laid inside the dense grasses unless special nests are provided. So if we have made a special nest for egg laying, then only we can have a proper egg management. Okay, we can manage the egg laying, but if they are laid in the dense grasses, then it is difficult to find them, so egg are lost in that cases. Losses due to the predatory animals or more. So there are some predatory animals also that can harm to our birds, and even sometimes they can eat away the egg also. Wild birds may bring disease unless proper care is taken. So if there is some wild bird also, so they can bring some disease, and that could harm to our birds in the poultry housing. Semi-intensive system. So this is the second type of semi-intensive system. As the name indicate, birds are halfway reared in the houses and halfway on ground or range. The birds are confined to house and night or as per need, and they are also given access to run. So at the night time they are kept in the cage, okay, or in a particular house, but at the daytime they are free to roam here and there, and even they are assessed to run even. The houses are with solid floors while runs are fields only. So they are open to run in the field, but they are having a proper solid house for the night. The success of rearing depend on the maintenance of condition of runs to reduce the contamination. So when they are running in the field, so sometimes they are exposed to the contamination that could cause diseases also, right? So the success of rearing depend on this particular factor. Runs can also be used to turn bases. The stocking density rate on an average for the adult bird is 750 per hectare. So this is the stocking density rate, and this system is usually adopted for duck rearing. Very, very important. The semi-intensive system that is more favorable for the duck rearing. The feeding and the watering facilities are provided in the pen. So they are a proper pen system. So in that they can proper water and feeding facility can be done. Advantages. So let us study about what are the advantages of semi-intensive system. More economical use of land compared to the free range system. So this particular is more economical if we compare to the free range system. Protection of birds from the extreme climatic condition. This is one of the big advantages, that they are protected from the extreme level of climatic condition. Control over scientific operations in some extent possible. But there are some disadvantages to this system also. High cost for fencing, need for routine cleaning and removal of litter material from the pen. So there are always litter material. Okay, so that should be removed from the pen, and proper cleaning should be done so that no disease could be exposed to the birds. The third type, that is intensive system. Birds are totally confined to houses either on ground, floor, on wire netting floor in cages, or on slats. So they are not allowed to move here and there in the ground. Birds are totally confined to the houses. It is the most efficient, convenient and economical system for the modern poultry production and huge number. So if we are considering for the huge number of birds, then we must go for this intensive system. Advantages. Minimum land is required for farming. Farms can be located near the market area, and day-to-day management is easier. Okay, to manage so many number of birds is easier, and they should be located near to the market so that easily they can be transported. That can be transported to the market, or even for the meat purpose the bird can be easily transported to the market. The production performance is higher as more energy is saved due to the restricted movements. Scientific management practices like breeding, feeding, medication, cooling, etc. can be applied easily and accurately. So they are confined to one particular place. So breeding is easy. Feeding to them is also easy. If they are exposed to any diseases, then medication is easy. So this type of management is helpful in this way also. The sick birds can be detected, isolated and treated easily, right? So sick bird can be detected easily, they can be isolated then and treated if possible. Disadvantages: birds' welfare is affected. They cannot perform the natural behavior. So birds are not in a proper natural behavior like roosting, spreading wings, scratching the floor with the legs. They cannot do. So these facility or these type of activities we cannot see actually birds doing these types of activity, because they are at one cage, either in the cage, or their number are so large that they cannot perform these natural behavior. Since they are not exposed to the outside sunlight and feed sources, all the nutrients should be provided in balanced manner to avoid nutritionally deficient disease. So this is also one should keep in mind, that there should be proper nutrition to, or the balanced nutrition food should be allowed to them. Chances for the spreading of diseases are more. So if one is exposed to disease, then the spread of the disease is chances of the spread of disease is higher, because they are so close at one place. Deep litter system. In this system, the birds are kept inside the house all the time. Arrangement for feed, water and nest are made inside the house. So there all the activities, whether there is feeding, whether there is water, okay, so all the activities have to be done in this particular house only. So the birds are kept on suitable litter material of about 3 to 5-inch depth. The word litter is used for fresh litter material spread on the floor, usually paddy husk, sawdust, ground nut hulls, chopped paddy straw or wood shavings are used as a litter material. So these are the litter materials required, okay. This arrangement saves labor involved in the frequent cleaning of the fecal matter. So there is a lot of fecal matter, that is also called as the droppings. So it is easy when it is released on the paddy husk or the sawdust or any type of litter material we are using here. So removing of this dropping is easy when there is a litter material spread on the floor. Otherwise, cleaning of the fecal matter will be a big task. The litter is spread on the floor in the layer of 2-inch height every fortnightly till the required is achieved. Now, what is the advantage? Vitamin B2 and vitamin B12 are made available to the birds from the litter material by the bacterial action. The welfare of birds is maintained to some extent, and the deep litter manure is useful fertilizer. Lesser nuisance from the flies when compared to the cage system. So these are some of the advantages that vitamin B12 and vitamin B2 can be made to birds from the bacterial action in the litter material only. And the welfare of the birds maintained to some extent. The deep litter manure is useful fertilizer. So these are some of the advantages of this extensive poultry system. But there are disadvantages as well. Because of the direct contact between the bird and litter, bacterial and parasitic disease may be a big problem. Respiratory problem may emerge due to the dust from the litter. So there are always some dust, okay, dust, and that could create a problem, that is actually the breathing problem to the birds. The cost of litter is an additional expenditure on the production cost. So this particular litter is an extra, we can say that it is an extra expenditure that we should plan if we are going for the intensive housing. Faults in ventilation can have more serious consequences than in the cage system. If there is any type of faults in the ventilation, then there will be a serious problem to the bird. So this ventilation should be always maintained. The build-up litter. The litter is accumulation and decomposition of the litter material and the excreta until it reaches a depth of 8 to 12 feet after an original start, that is around 3 to 5 inches in depth. So it can reach to this 8 to 12 inches. Bacterial action decomposes litter and excreta into a crumble form, and heat is produced during the decomposition, which keeps litter dry and warm. So there is always a bacterial action. Bacteria is present actually in the litter. So this decomposes the litter material, and the excreta which is dropped on this litter material, that could crumble from, and the heat is produced during its decomposition, which keeps the litter dry and warm. If the amount of dropping exceeds the litter, the fresh litter will be added to lower the amount of droppings. So time to time, this fresh litter should be added. Periodical stirring of the litter should be carried out for an effective functioning of build-up litter. So this is the build-up litter. After 1 year, the litter is changed and decomposed litter is used as a good quality manure. So after a year, the old litter that is already got decomposed should be removed and a fresh litter should be added. Now the previous one, that litter, that is a good quality manure that can be used in the agriculture field. The best build-up litter should be dry, friable and free from obnoxious odor. So there should not be any type of odor, right? And that should be totally dry. There should not be any type of dampness in that. Otherwise, it can cause disease to the birds. Slatted or slotted floor system. In the slatted floor, the iron rods or the wood reapers are used as a floor, usually 2 to 3 feet above the ground level, to facilitate fall of dropping through slats. So here in this slatted floor system, iron rods or wood wrappers are used. This is another type of system. Wooden reapers or the iron rod, that is 2 inches in diameter, can be used on lengthwise of the house with interspaces of 1 inch between rod. Now what are the advantage of this type of housing? Less floor space per bird is needed when compared to the solid floor system. So there is a less requirement of space if we are going for this particular system. Okay, if we compare to the solid floor system, bedding is eliminated, no requirement of bedding. Manure handling is avoided. Increased sanitation, but there is an increase of sanitation. Saving in labor and soil-borne infections is also get controlled. So these are some of the advantages over the solid floor system. But there are some disadvantages as well. Higher initial cost. Initially, you have to invest money. That is higher initial cost, and the conventional solid floors, if we compare to the conventional solid floor. Less flexibility in the use of the buildings. Any spilled feed is lost through the slots. And more fly problem. So there is a problem of fly, so that can spread disease. Slat slot cum litter system. This system is commonly practiced for rearing birds for hatching egg production. So once if we are going for the rearing of birds, okay, for the egg production, then we can opt for this slat or a slot cum litter system, particularly meat type breeders. Okay, here a part of the floor area is covered with the slats. Usually 60% of the floor area is covered with the slats and the rest with the litter. So 40% of the area is covered with the litter. Otherwise 60% of the floor is covered with the slats. Feeders and the waters are arranged in both the slats and the litter area. So for feeding and water facility should be arranged whether it is a slat area or a litter area. So these two facilities should be there. In case of breeder block, nest boxes are usually kept on litter area. So in the litter area, there should be proper nest boxes so that bird could enter these boxes and they can breed there. More eggs can be produced per unit floor space than the solid floor. So this is the advantages, one of the advantages of the system, that it can produce more number of eggs. Fertility is better with the slat cum litter house than with the all slat house. But there are disadvantages of this system also. Housing investment is higher with the slat cum litter house than with all the litter house. So if it is all the litter house, then there is a less housing investment, but if it is a slat cum litter house, then there is some investment. The separation of the bird from the manure beneath the slats commonly results in the fly problem. Cage system. This system involves rearing of the poultry on the raised wire netting floor in small compartments called cages, either fitted with the stands on the floor of house or hanged from the roof. So these cages can be stand on the floor or it can be hanged from the roof even. Okay, so the cages are netting floor or raised wire netting floor. It has been proved very efficient for laying operations right from day old to till disposal. At present, 75% commercial layers of the world are kept in the cages. So all the layers, that is around 75%, that is a big number. Okay, so they are opting cage system. Feeders and waters are attached to the cage from the outside except nipple waters, for which the pipeline is installed through or above the cage. So feeders and water facilities are there from outside the cage. Auto-operated feeding trolleys and the egg collection belts can also be used in this rearing system. The dropping or either collected on the tray underneath cages or on the belts or on the floor or deep pit under cages, depending on the type of cage. So what type of cage we are using, according to that the droppings are collected. Now the advantages. Minimum floor space is needed. So yes, we do not require a large space for this particular system. More number of eggs per hen can be received. Less feed wastage. In this particular system, there is no wastage of food. Better feed efficiency. Protection from the internal parasite and the soil-borne illness. Sick and unproductive birds can easily be identified and eliminated. So if any bird is sick or unproductive, then it can be identified and it can be eliminated so that other birds should not get infected. Clean egg production. Vices like egg eating and pecking in is minimal. broodiness is minimal, and no need of litter material. So we do not require extra investment. Artificial insemination can be adopted. So this is also one of the advantages. But there are some disadvantages. High initial investment cost. For the cage, we have to invest initially we have to invest a high capital. Handling of manure may be a problem. So whatever the manure is there, where to dispose of that is a problem. Generally, flies become a greater nuisance. The incidence of blood spot in egg is more, and the problem of cage layer of fatigue. So this is one of the big problem. So this is all about this session. Okay, so with this session we have completed the poultry housing. Thank you very much.